Fantastic.
Ciao.
Fantastic.
Trying to hold us off, and that just is probably going to be going down that one Colossi, and there's the ridiculously lagging GG!
Oh, nice. That's a big one. And those Vikings are going to focus down. All those Colossi are probably going to go down.
No, he doesn't even have Link yet.
Hey, welcome onto the show, guys. This is Joker casting with Gwyn, and this is the ISTL Season 2. And welcome, Gwyn. How you doing, man?
I'm excited to be here, man. It's a pleasure to be here to cast some ISTL. Of course, that's the Indie StarCraft League, which is kind of about bringing teams that maybe aren't the biggest teams right now. Maybe they're trying to break into that really tip-top professional level, allowing those players to get the exposure they deserve, because there is so much really high-end talent in the North American server, in the Canadian server, just kind of all over the place. It never quite gets that exposure it deserves. So big shout out to Impulse for running the ISTL. What a great venture.
Yeah, it's going to be pretty awesome. And actually tonight we have Impulse's very own team playing. It's going to be Impulse versus My Intent. Both, I believe, are undefeated in the ISTL.
Okay.
Yeah. My Intent beat NRG, which was a powerhouse for this team league. So they're a really good team. So My Intent's going to come off a big win, and Impulse coming off 2 all kills in a row. So 2 really strong teams going to be battling it out tonight.
So the big question then going into a match like this is, I mean, My Intent, I know a little bit about their team. They have kind of a deep roster of very good players. They have a couple big powerhouses in there. They can really kind of bring wins into the team. But with Impulse coming off of all kills, you know, sometimes when teams get in that all kill scenario, it's because they have one very, very powerful player who can kind of brush his way through everyone else, and the rest of their lineup isn't quite as strong. Is that the case with Impulse, or do they have a big power lineup as well?
Well, the funny thing is, we were just talking about the other day because the all kills came from two different Impulse players recently.
Oh,
So
okay.
yeah, so I mean, they're looking,
Mm.
we're looking pretty strong. We have a pretty deep lineup right now. We are
Hmm.
rocking a lot of really good players. So
Okay.
I think Impulse definitely has some depth and can definitely is going to be able to battle with My Intent. But My Intent, like you said, is going to be a powerhouse. They're going to be pretty tough to
Yep.
beat. So hopefully, we're going to get some very high level games.
I do know, like I said, that they've got some really good players in that roster. So we'll have to see who they decide to bring out tonight. Of course, it is a best of seven between these two teams, a Korean all-kill style format, which is quite a lot of fun. While we're talking, waiting for those games to get started, waiting for the My Intent player to get on into the game, we're gonna go ahead and do a few shout outs. One, I want to make the shout out to the music for the ISTL. It's done by I don't even know how do you pronounce that? That's the real question, Joker.
I'm not sure, Marine, if you can send me that. I didn't get that paper earlier, but I remember we did get some new guys that are doing a lot of music, and we're throwing them on our streams, and they like it. So, and the music's pretty awesome. I don't know what the guy's name is,
Okay.
but I'll get that
Yeah.
information here in just a second.
And then of course we've got Maxed Out Studios, and they're doing all the intros and the graphics for this production, and they've done a fantastic job. If you were looking at the production quality, this is actually really good production quality for sort of the level of tournament that this is. And I want to kind of throw that out there and say, if you're a fan of StarCraft, you should start demanding this sort of production quality out of organizations that want to put on tournaments, because it really brings sort of a legitimacy to esports in general.
Oh yeah, Mac Studio's done great
Mhm.
for us. They made us that awesome commercial that we use a lot.
Oh, yeah.
It looks really professional and cool. So we're very
Certainly.
thankful for them, and it's all voluntary out of them. So we're very fortunate to have these guys and connections like that.
Yeah, it's definitely difficult. One of the things I've been doing recently is I'm the executive producer for the Gigabyte Esports LAN, which is the weekend after MLG, and I got to tell you, ramping up resources to do all of the production needed to do a huge LAN event like that has been insane. Having people you can draw on who are excellent artists is great. So Maxed Out Studios, definitely check them out. They are. You can email them, I believe, at max@maxedOutstudios.com if you need some art done. Definitely the guy to talk to.
Definitely, and also Elveron is doing our MVP award this year.
Yeah.
That's a pretty cool deal. I think they're donating $50 to the MVP, who is chosen by
Mhm.
Quaffle. There's a lot of different categories for
Yeah.
the MVP. It's creativity, overall gameplay and things like that. So that's pretty awesome.
Yep. It will be pretty awesome. And so that's kind of a unique thing that I don't think a lot of the leagues are doing right now. And I want to highlight that a little bit. That's really cool that, we're into a situation here where we have an MVP for a league. Like, who else is doing that? And the answer is no one. And the fact that, like, everyone is going to kind of, like, come together, make that decision, this is the MVP for the league, and then that person gets an extra $50 on top of any of the team prizing that goes out is really, really awesome. So, quite a cool feature there of the ISTL. For those of you, like, this is, I think, my second time casting to ISTL, so I'm not super familiar with all the cool things they're doing, but some pretty good stuff. And then, of course, a huge shout-out to Impulse Esports, because they're the ones doing the production for this, putting on that stellar production value that you see and all that good stuff. So big shout-out to them. Without them, we wouldn't have a league right now.
Yeah, thank you very much, and thank you for you. I mean, you make me look silly right here. You got your nice green screen going. You got your nice suit. I was kind of thrown into the mix. Actually, a funny little story. I had a couple other casters lined up, and due to some problems, I had to cast. I like casting and stuff. I like to give everyone chances to cast. I'm not obviously the best caster, but it's funny because I was actually planning on going to the gym right before this, so I took this supplement that's like jacked on caffeine. And I took it right before this, and you're like, Joker's got a cast, so hopefully I'll be able to bring some high intensity because I am going to be lit on caffeine for this cast.
I think the real thing that no one's talking about in competitive esports is casters using performance-enhancing supplements.
Oh man, I'm gonna get,
of course.
Yeah, I'm gonna get checked and booted out of casting for taking
You
supplements.
know, like the players are under some scrutiny because of such things right now. So I would not be surprised if casters are next on that docket. Like,
That is for sure.
did you really drink that monster before casting?
So this is going to be good. I think we're just setting up the players right now, just about ready to get started. It looks like our first match is going to be on Cloud Kingdom, and I think it's going to be a ZVZ.
I'm actually really excited about that because, contrary to what most people think, ZVZ is actually my favorite matchup to cast.
Awesome.
Yeah, and I know, like, most people are like, Gwyn, you're insane. How do you like ZVZ? But there's this kind of subtle tangibility and this fragility to ZVZ throughout the entire game that I think is just a beautiful thing that can really be highlighted if you're gonna, kind of crush in on the real meat of the matchup, which is sneaking in drones in that early game, getting that drone lead going into that mid game, and then sort of translating that into a unit advantage or a base advantage going into that sort of that mid to late game scenario. So we'll have to see how it plays out. This is actually a huge map for counterattacks just because of the base layout, but we'll wait till we get on into the game. Looks like the players are pretty much ready. The good luck's the have fun's going out. The DGLIHGF, I don't even know what that is, Joker.
I'm not sure either. I'm not sure what they're going on. They're just spamming their keyboards, getting warmed up, it looks like. And I think we're getting this going. Right now, the countdown has started. So this is the ISTL 2. Impulse Esports versus My Intent. Round 3. Both these teams are undefeated, so this is going to be a great game, Gwyn.
Yeah, it certainly will be, and this is kind of going to be the pace setter, the tone setter for the rest of this series. This best of 7 between these two teams. We're jumping on in just a little bit late, but sometimes it's hard to find your players.
Absolutely,
they're not all living in a team house. They're not all living in a team house.
Yeah. Wouldn't that be nice if we all had team houses? Maybe we can get a team house for Impulse someday. Doubt it, but
I'll come visit.
There you go. There you go. We'll keep a spot open for you. All right, guys. So spawning in the top right, Impulse's player as the Blue Zerg, we got Impulse's Hyper.
It's going to be Hyper.
And in the bottom left, we have the Red Zerg, My Intent's Sony. And one thing I'd like to point out is Hyper just got off an all-kill from yesterday. He was the player that did all-kill. I think it was Team IP, which is I forget their name, but what that stands for. I think I can't remember what the name was. I'm sorry.
Oh, no. Epidemic is EPI. That's right.
Okay, yeah. No, not Infused. I don't remember what it is right now. But anyways, we did kill IP yesterday with Hyper. So Hyper's coming off a big win. Hopefully he gets to keep his momentum going here and be able to play strong. But Sony, I know, is a really strong player for My Intent, so this is going to be pretty awesome.
Absolutely. He's quite a strong Korean player. He played some Brood War in Korea as well. And, I mean, if you were playing Brood War in Korea back then, mechanically speaking, you're probably very, very solid. And I think that's in the ZVZ early game, the mechanics are so important, Joker, because if you miss that one inject by just a few seconds, your opponent's going to have a flood of units when you don't. And that in a ZVZ can easily spell disaster. You see both plays up to 15 supply, though, so there's a couple openings they can do here. If we see pools go down on 15, I wouldn't be surprised. If we see hatches go down on 15, I wouldn't be surprised either. But there it is. Sony actually opting for the pool first. This will allow him to be a little bit more aggressive. It's also a safer opening than the hatch first out of Hyper. Just because the hatch first is actually quite risky in this matchup. If someone, say, 8 pool drone all into you, then there's not really any way you can live or survive from that if they do it properly. So it's a big risk out of Hyper to take in this. And because these are all best of ones, I'm not sure if that's a risk I'd be willing to take.
Yeah, it's going to be very scary once Sony decides to start pressuring him here early. And one thing I'd like to say is I was watching Nassel today, and it really kind of opened my eyes on some ZVZ, and they were talking about how in ZVZ, especially in the early to mid game, he says in the battles you don't really want to just crush your opponent. He says when you're just a little bit beating the battles by just a small margin, that you're actually way more ahead because you're able to squeeze a few more drones out here and there, and in the late game it really shows.
Yeah, no, it's quite important. You bring up a good point there because if you crush your opponent
it actually means that you overmade units. And
Right.
what it means is that you're down on the drone count. You could have made more drones. You could have barely won the battle and had just a few more drones on the field at that point. And building workers, for Zerg at least, you build them in swells, right? You're going to build 10 drones at a time. You'll build 4 drones at a time. It's not going to be I build 1 drone every 17 seconds like it is with Terran or with Protoss. And what that means is that the droning is sort of a cumulative effect. If I can sneak in an extra 6 drones at the beginning of the game, then all of a sudden I'm in a beautiful position going into the mid game because I've had so much more time with all those drones mining. But here we go. Actually, Sony opting for a Roach Warren, and this is not something I super agree with. I think that actually opening roaches is very limiting to your play, and the reason for that is just that roaches are so slow going across the map, Roach Joker, that if your roaches say get to the middle of the map and Hyper simply counterattacks with a bunch of speedlings, he can easily win the game with a move like that, and Sony would just be in a terrible position because then the roaches get to Hyper's base, but Sony doesn't have a base at that point.
No, yeah, absolutely. And also because, the roaches are going to be coming out so early, and if Hyper does have that speed, he can actually counterattack while the roaches are coming across the map and make it back to defend in time.
Absolutely.
So that's definitely a big deal.
It certainly is. We see 3 roaches on the way for Sony right now. Now, what he's doing, I mean, one of the things that you can say about his play is that he wants to play very safe. And if you do get a few roaches out, you can drone very, very hard behind this sort of play because you're quite safe, especially with the 3 queens on the field. And the 3 queens out of Sony is something I absolutely love because what this is saying to me is it's saying, look, I'm not going to spend any gas on my defense. He's made, now he's making 4 more roaches, but he's not spending a lot of gas on his defense, which means he'll be able to tech quite quickly. And the queens are going to be really useful on just kind of denying scouting from overlords. And then also, once he gets energy on those, transfusing those roaches makes him a very potent force.
Oh, definitely. Now, kind of a weird thing, we do have Hyper's Baneling Nest right out here in front where you would usually see a couple Evo chambers for like a little choke area. So I'm not sure why he put them out. It's kind of just an odd position. But one big difference we have in this game is actually Hyper has quite the drone advantage right now.
Yes.
He's sitting at 34 drones to only the 29 of Sony.
That's one of those things that kind of happens if you're going to go for a big expensive roach composition. And we do see Hyper actually moving out with some Zerglings. He's going to catch 2 roaches in the middle of the map here. There are 5 more streaming toward the base, but with these spines and the ling count that he has, he actually should be just fine against this sort of play. But here we go. He needs to get a surround on those roaches, having them in range of that spine caller. The roaches do pick off a queen, which is a good win for them, but they will end up getting cleaned up. And a great move to cancel that spine caller there by Hyper, only letting 2 of those finish. And we should see Hyper take that 3rd base. Yes, there he is, going ahead to do that. Because if you're opening with that speedling composition and you haven't gone for like extra queens or something like that to use up a lot of minerals, you actually can afford to get that 3rd down much sooner than your opponent. And this is sort of the downside to Sony's style here, is that now he's in a situation where he can't really poach out on the map and be aggressive. He's going to lose a bunch of drones here in his natural expansion. And it's all because he decided to go for roaches plus queens, which left him at a mineral deficit.
Yeah, exactly. That Baneling's Nest is just about to pop here from Sony, but Hyper is poking and prodding at this army. Sony should, with those extra queens, like you said, is going to be able to hold that off with good transfuses on those roaches and everything. But Hyper's still in a nice drone lead, droned really hard behind this little counterattack and took that 3rd, like you said. So Hyper is still in a pretty good position right now. We'll see what kind of tech he is going for. He is also going for the roaches. Roach +1 missile attack is on the way. So,
yeah, I mean, and right now he's in a huge lead right here. He's taking his 3rd gas already. We see, I mean, Sony already on layer tech, trying to go up to 4 gases, which is a little bit indicative that he might try and go for some sort of Mutilus composition or an Infestor composition quickly. But with the position he's in, actually, I think this Evo chamber is blocking that gas, which is kind of a huge deal.
Holy cow, look how far they have to go.
Yeah.
Holy cow, I didn't even notice that.
With about 8 drones there instead of just the standard 3. So that's going to be a much reduced drone count there. And there is the infestation pit going down for Sony. So he is going to go for an infestor composition. Would love to see Burrow out of him, but he just can't quite afford it with the gas, especially with the super slow mining from that 3rd extractor, or 4th extractor, excuse me. And the drone count continues to go in Hyper's favor, and he's now started to produce roaches. And
Yeah.
I mean, when you're in a situation like this, Joker, you almost can just make roaches and go kill your opponent because you're at such an economic lead. It doesn't even matter if he has infestors to slow you down.
Absolutely. He is going to have he has the big economic lead right now, sitting at 53 to only the 41 of Sony. He has an extra base up. He knows everything that's going on. Sony did have a nice scout into the main, knows that there is no Spire, there is no infestation pit. He is just going purely roaches at this point. So we'll see how he tries to defend this. Hyper doing a little bit of a counterattack with some lings, trying to pick off a few drones here and there. But those roaches are going to be able to thwart those lings. They're going to be able to kill him. Did waste one Baneling on, I think, one ling down there. So... but yeah, Hyper is just in such a commanding lead right now. 39 drones for Sony to the 54 of Hyper. So this is here comes a big counterattack from Sony though, with a lot of roaches. But Hyper has actually more roaches and spine crawlers there. He's going to be absolutely fine from this win.
Yeah, I mean, and this is a situation where it's okay to crush your opponent's attacks because he's at such a lead already on that third base already. It's saturated. He's building more drones. Look at that, 7 drones in production as well as 9 roaches popping out. The +1 Carapace is going to be finishing up before his opponent. Sony is going for the double ups, and he's actually going for Hive really quickly. So I'm quite curious as to what this is for. We don't see a Spire down, and if you're going to go for, say, like a quick Broodlord, which in Sony's position would actually not be a bad idea, to go for some quick Broodlords to sort of contain and deal with the big, aggressive, ground-based style that Hyper is employing. You have to start your Spire at the same time you start your Hive because they have those exact same build times. They'll finish at the same time. You can start that greater morphing as soon as available. But here we go. The third is going to have to get canceled for Sony. He does end up canceling, and Hyper with a 60 supply lead, pushing in toward the base of Sony. Sony in a lot of trouble right here.
Yeah, and like you said, with those 2 bases and that gas mining from so long, and actually Sony is putting a lot more. He is putting more drones on that gas right now to try to get maximum efficiency. But here comes tons of roaches and lings from Hyper in the front door of Sony, and only 2 infestors out with a couple fungals. But I don't know. Hyper has just a big army right now.
Yep. I mean, and the fungals are good, don't get me wrong. Another infestor coming down and laying down another fungal, but I think the roach count is just too high for Hyper here. He's got 1-1, he's streamed and killing off the queen so they can't do any transfuses. At the very least, Sony's going to lose so many drones here, but the count dwindling, and we should see a GG momentarily as Hyper powers through Sony. And yeah, that's quite an unfortunate situation for Sony, but really playing from behind almost all game there.
No, yeah, absolutely. I guess that early hatch for Hyper, hatch before pool really paid off for him. He got to defend everything he needed. Sony didn't pressure him. And that's what I think one of the big mistake was in that battle is Sony did go for that pool first, but then he dropped the roaches as a defensive purpose. So if he could have got a lot of lings out and done a little bit of damage with that early pool.
I do agree. I completely agree there. The other thing the early pool gives you, Joker, is it actually lets you get your queens out faster, right? Because you have to have a spawning pool to make queens. And the queen getting that larva inject faster on the hatch will give you a bigger swell of units at a timing when your opponent doesn't have the same number of units. And if you really start to get into the intricacies of ZVZ, you can hit these very, very thin timings where I get a flood of units, I can put pressure on you. You just don't have enough larva to produce enough to defend it. And and if you're going to go for that sort of style, you have to exploit those sort of timings to do economic damage, or at least force the hatch first player to make units. Because really, what we saw there is that Hyper didn't have to make units for like the first 5 minutes of the game. He was able to get his hatch first, just make 2 Zerglings, and then make nothing but drones. It's a very dangerous situation to let a Zerg player be in.
Yeah, it seems like you have just an excellent grasp of the ZVZ. What is your best matchup, by the way, if you don't mind me asking, Gwen? I mean, what race do you play?
I play all 3 races. I have 3 accounts over on the Taiwanese account, so I play on the Korean server. I think probably my best matchup is probably TVZ. I play mech in TVZ. And I love just like roasting drones with Blue Flame Hellion.
Shut up, because I play Zerg and I hate that. There's nothing more frustrating than a 6 Hellion run by and you got nothing but a queen back there and they just start roasting. Oh.
Yeah, I open up 2 Fact Reactor Hellion in that matchup, and then I double expand off of it, and then I add on 3 more factories, and so I end up going 4 Fact Reactor Hellion with Blue Flame, and then
Thor or tank out of the other 2 factories, and then after I get my 6 gas up, then I add another factory, and so yeah, it's kind of a nasty composition to deal with. It's very
yeah. I don't think I will play you on ladder, but I don't ever want to play you on ladder. I'll just GG, no re.
But yeah, no, the ZVZ, like I said, it's my favorite matchup to cast, just because I think that there's kind of this relationship between the 2 players, which doesn't exist in the other matchups, and it's just because Zerg obviously gets that choice. Do I make drones? Do I make units? That's a very unique choice, which exists in Brood War, but not to the extent that it does in StarCraft 2, because in StarCraft 2, you really can choose, do I make drones or do I make units, because of the inject mechanic. And just how injects line up, your queen timings, when you get your queen, how consistent you are with doing the injects, and then the whole intricacy of, like, do I make drones or do I make units, when both players have to make that decision based on limited scouting information, is actually really exciting to me.
That is, man. It's a lot of brain power in that ZVZ matchup. A lot of metagaming going on and outthinking your opponent, which is it's awesome.
Yeah, that's definitely why I have so much love for the matchup, and I understand why people have so much hate for the matchup, because from a visual standpoint, it's like, oh, he's making roaches again.
Oh, totally. I definitely see that.
I get it, right? I get it. So I try and bring, like, hey, no, pay attention to the drone counts. Pay attention to when someone's making drones versus when they're making something else. And that's the exciting part to ZVZ for me. It's not, hey, he's making roaches again, because everyone's going to make roaches in ZVZ unless you're crazy,
Yeah. Hey, so do you think that that gas being kind of blocked by that Evo really hurt him a lot? I didn't really get to catch his.
It's really big. It's probably akin to having just 1 guy on gas instead of having 3 on gas. I would say it's probably about like a quarter to a third as much gas in as he should have had. And the big thing to note is that, like, having each of those drones on gas, if he'd put more than 3 on gas, then you're sacrificing so much mineral income to do that. So that was actually just I think if I had been in that spot, I would have killed the second Evo chamber when it wasn't researching something.
Oh, yeah, because I mean, the 75 that it takes to make it is so much worth instead of long distance mining from that gas, man. That's crazy. So yeah, it looks like just a little bit of misstep from Sony might have cost him. I don't know. I can't tell from that because I wasn't really watching the gas, but it could have cost him.
I mean, I think it could have resulted in maybe like an extra infestor or 2, or maybe a slightly quicker infestation pit, which would have been maybe 3 extra infestors, which, I mean, if you look at it, the count on roaches he had, the number of infestors he had, he probably would have held that push with an extra 3 infestors. And so that's kind of an important thing to note, is that, if you've got that up, then maybe you do hold that push. But kind of the big problem with saying something like that is that you don't know, and there were so many factors that went in. I just felt I felt like that our MY, our My Intent player just really didn't take advantage of some timings earlier in the game where he needed to force his opponent to make units, or at least force a reaction out of his opponent. Like the roach move out with the 7 roaches, the roaches weren't together. 5 were on one side of the map, 2 were on the other. 2 of them got picked out. If there had been 7 roaches in that attack, it would have been much more potent, especially in those very early game small unit engagements. So
I definitely absolutely agree.
There were a lot of just really small mistakes that kind of ended up snowballing in Hyper's favor. But, really good play out of Hyper to take advantage of all that. And I think we're going to go to a short commercial break. And when we get back from that, we're going to have our next match. Hyper will be in. We'll have to see who the My Intent player is going to be. I'm going with me as Joker. We'll be right back.
Party all day, we
trying to hold us off. The Nexus is probably going to be going down that one Colossi, and there's the ridiculously lagging GG!
Nice. Down to the big one. And those Vikings are going to focus down. All those Colossi are probably going to go down.
No, he doesn't even have Blink yet.
Welcome back, guys. This is the ISTL2 bringing you guys games from Impulse and My Intent. Impulse currently up 1-0 to My Intent. I am Joker casting with Gwen, and we are getting right back at it.
I gotta say, My Intent took off the gloves with this player choice. They really did, Joker. We have McLeod in here from My Intent, and he is a fantastic Terran player. And when I say fantastic, I mean he's probably the best player on their team by a bit. And so
Absolutely.
I'm really excited to see that. And I haven't seen him play any TVZ. I've seen him play some TVP, and he has a very abusive drop style, which is quite good against Zerg as well. So I'm quite curious to see if he employs that sort of play. We are going to be on Antigua Shipyard, which I would kind of say is a good map for the Terran if he's going to play for the late game. There's a lot of Zergs have been favoring not to play on this map any longer, simply because it's so difficult to take that fourth base that you need to get as the Zerg.
Yeah, and once you start getting more than your 3 bases there, your bases start getting so far spread out. This is MLG. Is this Force Cross spawns?
It will be Force Cross, yeah.
Okay. But yes, there's so many spots that the Terran can abuse drop harass in this map, and it's going to be, especially if he's one of those Terrans that just drop harass forever. It's so hard for Zergs to really multitask to keep up with that and then be able to counterattack and everything. And I know McLeod is definitely one of their best players. He's been in top grandmasters for seasons upon seasons. So this is going to be a great game. One of my favorite matchups to watch. That's for sure.
Yep. Certainly. So we're figuring out what's going on. Maybe McLeod is not in yet. That's the word I'm getting from my production team. So we're gonna take this time while we wait to just mention a few of the the organizations and people that help support Impulse Esports and the ISTL. That is the of course the Indie Star League there. So let's talk about that. Of course, our music is by Kino Sai 391. He's on Newgrounds. Put out all the music for this, which is great. I want to say that in esports, and here I'm going to stand on a soapbox here. Let me step back.
It's all right. It's all right.
I work in the entertainment industry. I work as a voice actor and a studio singer, and so not pirating music, not using music that you don't have permission to is like a big deal to me. It's a huge deal, and pretty much every single esports organization out there does not care. They're like, oh, I heard this cool song on YouTube. Let's rip it off YouTube and use it for our tournament theme song. And I'm just like, what? And I'm so glad that the ISTL actually went out, found an artist they liked, were like, hey, can we use your music? And he was like, of course, here you go, here's permission. Because that is the legitimate way to do something. No one else is doing that. I mean, freaking NASL Season 2 Finals. They were playing The Lion King. Do you think they licensed that from Disney to play it? Of course not. Do you know how expensive that is? That's bigger than their entire budget for the year. So even the big leagues are making the bad decisions, and it's refreshing to see someone else kind of stepping in and doing it right. So I want to throw a big shout out to obviously that artist for providing the music, and then just to the ISTL in general for saying, hey, let's actually do it correctly.
Yeah, man, we're trying to do everything right around here because we are such a small tournament, and if we start doing things, start messing up, we're just going to get lost in the mix because there is so many team leagues out there. So we're definitely trying to be a little bit different than other team leagues, but I think we have a good thing going right now, and this so far has been a great season.
Yep, and there's Shinya, who knows me quite well.
You guys have a past?
We do. Shinya's quite a good Protoss player. I am kind of curious how much he's been practicing, because I know that he has a propensity to not practice. And
He's talking about you right now.
I know, I know. Yeah, he's a good player. And we'll have to jump in and see how it all turns out. But yeah, he has a propensity for not practicing. When he's practicing, he is scary good. He is very good. His control is fantastic. His macro is very good. He played Brood War quite competitively. And I'm really excited to see what he does if he practices a lot, because I think he's one of those players who could show up at an MLG and take some games off really good Koreans if he was really practicing quite a bit. Again, that all comes down to his dedication to doing that. And we'll have to see. I mean, he might surprise us all here. But MYI is actually his team. I think he's one of the founders, and I believe he's the team captain. Does he know?
Oh, that's awesome. I did not know that. That's good to know. So Gwyn, you're pretty busy here. You got MLG, everything coming up, right?
Yep, I will be casting at MLG this upcoming weekend. I'm going to be at E3 tomorrow, Wednesday, and Thursday, and then MLG rehearsal Thursday, MLG Saturday through Sunday. Friday through Sunday, excuse me. And then the Gigabyte Esports LAN I'm the executive producer for that, and I'm also going to be casting that. That's the next weekend after MLG. So
you are a busy man. We appreciate you coming in and helping us out in these small teams, small tournaments like this, man. It's people like you that help these things get off the ground. So thank you very much.
Not a problem. It's always fun to cast. Always fun to cast some good old North American guys knocking it out. And here we are. We're into the game, though, so let's go ahead and get that up on the screen if it's not already. And in the red, playing for Team iMp, we have Shinya the Protoss. And in the cross-map positions, playing the Zerg, it is Impulse's Hyper, coming off his win last game.
Yep, and he is actually on a 5-game winning streak in the ISTL because he did all kill last game, just coming off with a win right now. So he is still yet to be beat. Is Shinya going to be enough to bring down Hyper, the powerhouse right now for Impulse Esports? This is going to be a great game. Looks like Shinya going standard right now, dropping down the pylon. Is he going to go Nexus first, do you think? I mean, I know it's been getting pretty popular.
I think that Nexus first is not something that Shinya would do, just from knowing his playstyle for a long time. He wasn't one to go for the big economic risks. So I think we might see like a 15 Forge and then a 15 Nexus out of him. But I don't think we'll see that 17 Nexus. I think that's a little bit too risky for his style. I do want to comment on this pylon place. I actually don't like it. I'm disappointed.
Okay.
Disappointed. And sort of my reasoning for that is just that if you're including pylons on this front wall here, it's actually quite easy to Baneling bust that or Roach bust that. Especially with a wall in like this, putting the pylon on one side, you're going to need a second pylon to wall in the other side. So he's basically committing to 2 pylons in his wall, or at least 2 pylons at that front to power everything, rather than having one that's set back, or rather than actually using the Nexus as part of the wall. And it is going to be a Nexus first. So Shinya, I haven't seen any of his games in a while, so he has apparently switched up his style.
Right on. So Hyper is sending that Overlord right up into the top of that ramp right now. He's going to be able to spot that Forge is a little late, probably knowing that Nexus is down first. So yeah, here we go. Hyper did drop down his pool. His pool is just about finishing. Going to have enough for one set of lings right now, just to go scout around, see what's going on. Nothing crazy at Hyper. Actually, something funny. I was streaming yesterday, and I was playing my buddy who was a Protoss player. He actually sniped me, and we were talking about how the pylon is so easy to get Baneling busted. He didn't use the pylon in his wall. He had just his Forge. And so I was trying to Baneling bust him, and I was going to go for his Forge because I didn't know what's easier to Baneling bust, if it was the Forge or the Nexus. I mean the Forge or the Gateway. So I had my buddy look up exactly, because my buddy was on the stream with me, look up exactly how many Banelings it takes to kill a Forge. He looked it up real quick, so I went to go Baneling bust him, and it was 10 Banelings to a Forge. Yep. And I hit it with like 8 Banelings, and he force fielded it. So I lost all my Banelings, and he ended up winning the game. So I was pretty disappointed in that.
That does happen sometimes when you're in that situation. But the Gateway is finishing up, and we should see the core go down for Shinya quite quickly. He is transferring all of Dem probes on over. But yeah, I mean, this is kind of a wall that it would be vulnerable to that sort of play. We don't see anything like that out of Hyper, though. He's gone for the very standard 3 hatch before gas. He's going to be making nothing but drones for as long as possible. And when we say as long as possible, what I mean is it's all going to depend on what he scouts. If we look in the main base of Shinya right now, we see he has 2 gas finished there, and he's spending the majority of his chrono boost on probes. If he takes a 3rd or a 4th gas, that's going to kind of dictate his tech choice. And if he decides just to stay on the 2 gas, it's going to be some really big gateway play out of him. He's not going to have the gas to really do much tech. But here we go. The deciding moment's about to happen because that core is down, and he will be able to decide his tech route quite quickly. It's going to be Stargate, so we should see a 3rd gas pop out of Shinya quite quickly. And yep, there it is.
Right on. I've actually watched a lot of Hyper's games lately, and he has been favoring Muta play versus 2-base Protoss players. So we'll see what he decides to go this time. Yeah, he definitely is going to need to start taking his gas if he wants to do that. He has absolutely 0 gas being taken right now at the 48 supply mark, and there goes 3
there we
gas.
go. At about the 6-minute and 20-second mark is where Zergs are sort of settling in. Somewhere between 6 and 6:30 is where that gas, you end up wanting to get that gas out. So that's pretty standard out of him. I am kind of interested as to what Shinya's follow-up here is going to be, because obviously he's getting the Stargate for the Void Ray, and I like this play on this map quite a bit. You can put a lot of pressure on the Zerg 3rd, and more importantly, you have destructible rocks you can actually charge up on before you go into that 3rd and potentially do a lot of damage. Not enough Protoss players abuse that fact, and Shinya is definitely the kind of player who would, but here comes the Overlord, and those new speedy Overlords, man, they see everything.
They are so fast, man. I love it.
It's so frustrating. I can't stand it. I'm trying to open up, my mech builds in TVZ, and there's like 5 Overlords in my base, and I only have 1 Marine because he just threw down a fleet beacon. What?
Oh wow.
Shinya with 2-base mothership rushing. Oh my goodness, Shinya, you are a nerd.
Man,
that's all I gotta say.
That Hyper, is he gonna be able to? He does see that. He does see that Void Ray right now. The Void Ray is shooting down his Overlord, so he is dropping a few. Oh, go for it.
This is like, if you see the Stargate and you see 2 gas like that. At the natural, what that means is it doesn't mean that your opponent is going mothership. It means that your opponent is opening Stargate and then quickly transitioning into robo play. And the fleet beacon just finished up, and a mothership is on the way.
Oh my god!
At the minute and 45-second mark. So there's 2 things that Shinya could do with this. 1, he's going to get the mothership and he's going to do a mass recall into his opponent's base. Okay. The second thing he could do with this is he can actually use this mothership defensively to take his 3rd base and avoid the situation that so often happens where you have big aggression coming out of the Zerg to deny that 3rd for the Protoss. Knowing Shinya, I think it's going to be mothership recall into the main.
Oh my god, that is going to be quite an exciting. Yeah, that's going to be insane.
And then, of course, a huge gateway all-in. So we're literally talking about... it's going to be probably mainly Zealots, only because that is 13 gates out on the field right now. Yep. So there you have it. The Void Ray is going to make its way over. It's going to get fended off pretty quickly by the Spore Crawler.
Oh my god.
And
this is either the craziest or the most genius build I've ever seen. We are still yet to find out. But we do have, we don't really have any anti-air, but a few queens and some spores.
And that's kind of the thing here, right, is that we're going to see mass charge lot, probably with Archons as well, out of Shinya, which, if it's cloaked like that, under that mothership, there's not a whole lot the Zerg can do about it, and charge lots are actually quite good against roaches, because the reason that, roaches, you think, oh, roaches are good against zealots. No, they're actually not. A zealot is quite efficient against a roach, but the problem is that the roach can kite the zealot. Well, if that zealot has charge, man, it's a lot here to do that.
Hey, especially if they're cloaked too, huh?
Mm-hmm.
This is gonna
zealots with charge are big trouble. Here comes an over. It's actually going to come in and see this mothership, and I guarantee Hyper is going to be like, WTF, mate? And then, I don't know what he's going to do, but this actually, oh no, he's going to go for that, maybe the defensive into the 3rd base while pushing. This is quite crazy out of Shinya.
Yeah,
No,
this
he-
is a pretty cool action right now to Shinya. Hyper did go for that Hydralisk Den, so that is going to be help quite a bit in fending any of these gateway pushes off, because Hydras just do so much DPS. If he can take down that mothership, he might be all right, but that's going to be a lot of Zealots, and there's a freaking mothership on the map.
And see, what Shinya's doing here, taking this third base, is actually really kind of brilliant, because the mothership's been scouted out. His composition has been scouted out because the Overseer does see cloaked units. And if Hyper makes Hydralisks, he can't push cross-map with them.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, they're just way too slow. He doesn't have enough spread.
The only way he can really deal with this Zealot Archon composition with the mothership and the Void Ray is to make Hydralisk and push with them. So his creep spread is actually quite lacking in this game. It's a little bit disappointing for the 13-minute mark. So Shinya is quite safe to take this third. He's going to be able to get his third up. He's already got the mothership up. And the other thing that he could do, and this would actually just be ridiculous, is that he can move out with this force, leave the mothership back home, and if his force gets in trouble, just recall it back.
Oh, that is awesome. That is awesome. You have Hyper going for that gold in the middle.
This is actually a really good move. Yep.
Yeah, I like that. And you know what? Once he's going Hydras, I'd really like to see him get an extra queen out here and just start dropping creep tumors everywhere, because he's really going to need that speed boost for these Hydras, especially fighting this Archon charged lot. Once these charged lots catch Hydras off creep, they're going to be just absolutely melted.
It's not gonna be pretty. Now, it does look like Hyper is about to become really aggressive here. He just made a whole bunch of Corruptors, and he's moving out with this big Roach Hydra. So I think his plan here, obviously, is to try and kill off the mothership with the 8 Corruptors and then clean up the ground army. I don't know, though. I mean, it's a lot of charge lots. They've got +3 already as well, and he's just going straight for the shield upgrades. Now, Shinya is going to be a max Protoss army, or an almost max Protoss army, versus the Zerg army, and Hyper doesn't have the best unit composition if this attack doesn't work out. It is going to come down to this attack, though, and here it comes. Engagement starting to go down. The Zealots starting to charge out. Shinya needs to be really careful here. He is down in supply right now.
Oh, and here comes Hyper charging in. He really needs to get those Overseers in the mix. And the big Vortex going down, catching a lot of Hyper's units, and Hyper trying to kite back a bunch of these charged lots, but he is losing so much. He is going to be able to reinforce this pretty well. He is at that money drone count right now, but Hyper losing a lot of guys right there.
Yeah, and all those Roach Hydra are immediately going to fall to that composition. That was a beautiful vortex out of Shinya. And the big thing here is that mothership is still alive. So, I mean, if he loses it, obviously, then that would be a big problem. But right now, Shinya's got this army advantage. He's pushing across the field, and Hyper just doesn't have the unit composition to really deal with this. Those Zealots with the +3 attack deal damage so quickly, Joker. I'm not sure if Hyper's going to be able to survive this onslaught.
I don't know either. 2 Corruptors out. That mothership is probably going to stay alive. 2 Corruptors and just a few Hydras. If that mothership stays alive, there's definitely no way. I think he does have enough for another Vortex. If he can Vortex half that army and throw all those Archons you have in there, it's GG anyways. So
it's going to be a really, really tough situation. Here we go. The mothership starting to put pressure on the expansion. We do have some Corruptors out here. They're trying to take that mothership down. There's a Void Ray there, but the mothership getting so low. Will it get finished up? No, it stays up. A whole bunch of the army gets Vortex at the same time. The Archons running their way in so that they can do that, beautiful sort of just like mass everything. Oh, no. The mothership finally falls, and that greatly reduces the strength of this army. And Shinya is actually in a little bit of trouble now that happened. The Roach numbers are actually so high for Hyper, but those Archons doing so much damage, Joker. I don't know.
Oh my god, yeah, those Archons with +3 attack are going to be so hard to stop. Hyper right now trying to reinforce with all he can. He is so low on gas, so I don't think he's going to be able to hold off this force with just Lings. The gas is just not there, and these Archons are just going to melt through absolutely everything.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, look at the Shinya just remakes that... just remaking that mothership. Of course, he did build a pylon here, and he has so many gateways he should be able to warp in off literally all of them all the time. I'm surprised he actually hasn't started adding a lot of Void Rays into his composition. I think that would be the smart move against the Corruptors that have started to be produced by Hyper. And of course, the Void Rays are going to be good against Roaches as well. But here we go, Shinya mounting up to do his next little warp in. It is going to be Stalkers this time with a Zealot as well, and poaching forward. That is so many Archons out of the field. This reminds me
I was just going to say, Gwen, if you look at the kills on those Archons, those are just ripping through the Zerg army like they are butter. And now he's trying to go for a nice advantageous spot, trying to get up here into this third. Hyper has a pretty good spread of his army, though. He's got a lot of guys in his third, some guys out in the front. So it looks like Shinya might pull back for another couple warpins.
He does pull back, gets that other warp in, and I mean he's 20 supply off max. And here's the problem for Hyper here is that Hyper is maxed, but Hyper is maxed on Roach Hydra Corruptor. And Roach Hydra Corruptor is not a unit composition you want to be maxed on against a Protoss that's got this sort of upgrades against you. Here comes the engagement. This is a great spread for Hyper, and Shinya knows that he has to pull back. You can't engage down that ramp into a beautiful concave like the one that Hyper just spread out. But here we go. The concave is now reversed in its efficiency for the Protoss and sweeping forward with a lot of these Archons, just cleaning up, doing so much damage. Those Hydralisks trying to run, but they're so slow off creep. And right now, this battle in the middle is quite intense. But Shinya taking a supply, or taking an even supply setup for the first time in this game. Will he be able to turn it into a supply lead, cleaning up a lot of these Zerg forces? It looks like yes, he will. And man, Shinya's play so unconventional, but so ridiculous this game. And there's another mothership heading toward the middle.
Yep, a bunch of these Overlords are going to get caught out here in front. I'm not sure if that will supply Hyper. Yes, it actually almost does supply block Hyper, so that's kind of a big deal. You can't be losing Overlords in a time like this. Hyper, impressive being able to hold this off for so long, but I just don't know how long he can because literally I don't think any of these Archons have died, and they're just getting bigger and bigger in their numbers. So this is going to be so hard. Hyper going for a little bit of a counterattack right now, going for that gold of Shinya, but Shinya does have that mothership, has the high ground advantage, and is going to be able to start raining chaos on this Zerg army. Right now, these Archons are just shredding through everything.
Yeah, I mean, the Archons, there is a good concave for a lot of these Roaches coming in, but with that mothership there, the Roaches can't, see these units. There's no Overseer here, so Shinya at a beautiful Hyper getting a little bit angry there, and GG's out. Shinya takes the win. I gotta say, man, that was some insane play out of him. I've heard of that style before, of going for the two-base mothership, but I've actually never casted a game of it done. So, Shinya,
I haven't seen it.
Shinya, man, he's just like, motherships are good, Archons are good. I like to put Archons in vortexes, so why don't I go mothership off two bases instead of 3 or 4?
I love innovative StarCraft players like that aren't just going same old boring metagame stuff, that are mixing it up and coming out with wins. It makes for such exciting cask win. One thing I'd like to point out, that second Vortex actually was not, it actually was almost in Hyper's favor, because what Hyper did was got a really good concave around that second Vortex. It was right in the front of his expansions there. And Hyper just about turned the tides on it at one point. He got a really good concave around that Vortex, and when all units came out, Hyper had all the Roaches surrounding that Protoss army. But Shinya just had his insane macro and those Archons, man. Is there a counter? Is there a counter for those things? Holy cow.
Obviously, Roach is the counter to that Archon, or Broodlords are actually quite good against Archons as well. So, I gotta say though that style out of Shinya, I whispered him in the game, and I was like, LOL, two-base mothership, and he's like, these are the things I dream about at night. This is his response. So, he is quite a character as well as a player. But yeah, this game, as the chat is saying, was a little bit, batshit crazy.
Yeah, it was awesome. And hey, that's the things that the Elveron Awards go to, is creative things like that get you wins in big time situations, and just being, basically just being awesome. And Shinya really showing that that was some crazy stuff. Made it pretty awesome for us to watch. That's for sure. Taking nothing away from Hyper held that off for so long. Many Zergs would crumble. Hyper, he kept on with his injects, and he kept pumping out just a great amount. Held that off for so long.
And it's kind of interesting to talk a little bit about Hyper's play, because what he displayed there is it was like good solid play, and it's basically almost as much as you can ask out of any pro gamer for the first time they see that, because I almost guarantee you he's never seen two-base mothership into 13-gate charge lot Archon into third base. He's probably never run into that strategy before, and what that sort of means is that he's gonna keep doing what he thinks is correct. And what he thinks is correct is, well, I need to kill off this army, and a good way to do that is actually to go Roach Hydra Corruptor. What he didn't know is that he had to transition out of that. And he had to get a fourth base somewhere in there, because Shinya took the third. He was on 6 gas. He was you can't be on equal production with a Protoss as a Zerg player in that matchup if you don't have Infestor Broodlord on the field. And that's kind of like the big thing to know, because you can, as a Zerg player, get on 3 bases, get Infestors, and get Broodlords. And if your Protoss opponent is also on 3 bases, you can actually trade pretty efficiently if you're very, very patient. You push very slowly with Spine Crawlers, a lot of creep, and your big army. You actually can win that game off 3 base.
Yeah, and then, that's another thing, is the creep spread wasn't quite there for Hyper. He did have Hydras in that, and not even close. In that first army, he did have Hydras. And that first attack, Shinya just took such a convincing lead with that first Vortex. He got so many kills. I think Hyper went in a little premature with a lot of his Corruptors. He had quite a bit of Corruptors out, and the Corruptors were getting shot down by the Archons before they can do a whole lot of damage. So that's kind of really slowed him down there. I liked Hyper's decision to move out and attack there, because, it came a tiny bit late, but his logic behind it, and what I like is actually his logic behind it. His logic behind it was, look, my opponent is doing something I've never seen before. The best response when that is happening is just to go freaking kill him. Oh, yeah.
True, man.
Kill him before it gets any scarier, that's for sure.
Exactly, right? He goes for this mothership, and you're like, okay, 2-base mothership? Well, that means he really doesn't have a lot of anything else. And the answer is that's entirely true. I mean, what did Shinya have? He had, a whole bunch of gateways, but he didn't really have the probe count to support making anything other than, Zealots and occasionally High Templar off that count. So, if you're in a situation like that and you're the Zerg player and you're like, well, I made my 65 drones and now I'm just going to go kill him, you oftentimes can just do that because the mothership will just get killed. We're going to go to a short commercial break, guys. When we get back, we're going to have more games from the ISTL. I am going with me as Joker. Stay tuned.
To hold us off, and that just is probably going to be going down that one Colossi, and there's the ridiculously lagging GG!
Nice. That's a big one. And those Vikings are going to focus down. All those Colossi are probably going to go down.
Yeah, he doesn't even have the link yet.
Welcome back, guys. This is the ISTL Season 2, bringing you guys Impulse versus My Intent, and actually the series is tied 1-1, Gwen.
It's tied 1-1. It's certainly a thing to behold, the way it became tied 1-1, Joker. I think that's really the story of the day, because even if no other games happen in this series, I will be content to know that I got to cast a 2-base mothership into 13-gate Zealot Archon off into 3rd base into winning.
God, that reminds me of some old Huck play. I remember Huck used to do some mothership rushes back in the day. I remember watching it. I believe Day 9 casting that.
He only did it against random scrubs or intel attack. And we're not talking about random scrubs here. We're talking about Hyper, an amazing Zerg player from Impulse, getting crushed by this style out of Shinya. And apparently, talking about Shinya, he did the same thing versus Ostaji, and Ostaji got really upset about it.
Oh, really? Oh, man. I mean, there's not much to get upset about. It's a pretty badass build. So I mean,
it is. I don't disagree with that sentiment at all. It's quite a ridiculous build, but I think it's so out of the metagame that it's like,
oh yeah.
As a Zerg player, and trust me, because I played Zerg for the first for all of the beta, and back when Zerg was terrible, really bad. I mean, I guess late beta they were terrible. Early beta, roaches were 2 armor and 1 food, and you just kind of went 6 SR and just held down the armor so your opponent died every single game in every matchup. They were one supply, man. oh, I'm at 100 supply. I need to get to 200. I guess I'll make 100 roaches, and then you did. So it was kind of ridiculous. It was a little bit broken. So anyway, Zerg was actually awful at the beginning of the game, and despite what people are like, oh, Fruit Dealer won a GSL. Dude, I don't care if Fruit Dealer won. Zerg was awful. They were so bad. No one could win with them except for like Fruit Dealer, and only because he just like metagamed the cheese that was invariably coming. He's like, oh, you're gonna 2 racks all in me. I guess I'll make Banelings at 8 supply. You know, and it's like, how to, whatever.
I remember Fruit Dealer. Whatever happened to that guy? Is he still playing? Is he still in like Code A or something?
No.
Drop down.
No, he doesn't even play anymore.
Man, that's too bad. But I'm glad to see Protoss I'm glad to see Shinya actually doing that, because I'm so tired of Protoss doing the same old thing, you know, 2-base robo play for forever. So this just is, it was so exciting just to watch that mothership play.
Absolutely was. But what I was saying about the Zerg is I think so many Zergs have this like mindset of like, if I scout perfectly, I can counter my opponent's build perfectly and then crush them in the late game, going into that economic advantage, right? But if you don't scout it, or you don't know what your opponent's doing, and then it kind of blindsides you, it's very easy to just die, right? Because you're like, I'm making drones. Oh my goodness, 6 gate. And then you're dead, right? I'm sure it happened. Like when I play Zerg, trust me, like I'm playing over on the Korean server, and I'm like, oh, okay, I see he took a 3rd gas. Not gonna be 6 gating me, and then he takes the 3rd gas and then doesn't put any probes into it just to like metagate. And then I lose to like the 7 gate all in off on gateway, and I'm just like, I guess these spore crawlers I made pretty useless. Third gas
useless.
Made void rays, right? No, it doesn't mean void rays. That means I'm gonna get 6 gated. Come on. And so I totally understand the frustration the Zerg players seeing that style would have. It's like, oh, I see you went Stargate, and then there's a 4th gas, so that means you're going Robo right after the Stargate. Mothership. Oh, and then you just die.
Oh, Glenn, that's too awesome. All right, guys, we're jumping right into this game. Game number 3. It is currently tied 1-1 at the top left as the Red Terran. We have Impulse's Deceive at the bottom right as the Blue Protoss, just coming off a big, crazy win with some best mothership play. We got My Intense Shinya. So this is going to make for a good game. Deceive was actually the other Impulse player that did all kill. One of the earlier teams in the ISTL. So he is a very, very good. He actually killed Area 51 as well. And they're a pretty renowned team in the indie team league. So they're pretty good.
Yeah.
It's going to be a great game.
And one of the interesting things, we're actually on MLG Entombed Valley, I believe. And there's something really kind of interesting about this map in this matchup that I want to talk about a little bit, and that's just the base layout. So if we take a look at the Protoss base right now for a second, there's the Protoss main. Directly to the north, there's the Protoss natural, and if we go back to the main and then we go directly to the west, there's the Protoss third. And the reason I illustrate this is that the bases are in a triangle formation, and 2 of the sides of the triangle are against the sides of the map. They're against the walls of the map. Which basically just leaves one face of the triangle open to the center of the map. And the reason this becomes really significant is that Protoss wants to get 6 gas. If they can get 6 gas, if they can get their big Deathball army with Colossus and High Templar and everything else, they will often just win the game.
Right.
And Terran doesn't want Protoss to get 6 gas without taking a lot of damage on the way. So drop, harass, and multi-prong aggression is the big style out of Terrans right now to sort of slow that down. And this map is actually very conducive of the Protoss getting on that high gas count easily with an easy time defending it.
Yeah, definitely. I really like. Yeah, I like how these. This map actually makes for a really good TVP. Watching Marine King in the couple MLGs ago, how he'll land his factory right where these destructible rocks are, denying Protoss while taking out the third. It's just such an innovative map that it's pretty, makes for some awesome games. Yep.
And both players going for a big economic play. We actually saw Shinya, I believe, go for that Nexus first on 15 supply, which is a little bit of a risk, but we don't see a lot of pressure. And the thing I like about Shinya is that he actually followed that SCV all the way back with his probe, and what that is confirming effectively is it's basically saying, look, you're not trying to build a bunker or anything like that at my front to put pressure on that Nexus, so I know I'm safe to do this, and that allows him to sneak out a couple extra probes, and spend those chronos on probes rather than spending them on getting a Zealot out very quickly. So he's getting the Zealot now. That core is on the way. We saw a 1-Rax expand out of Deceive, and he followed up with a single gas into 2 more gateways, so that should be for combat shields, I believe, if he's going to play for kind of the safer long-term play. And
one little thing is right now that Shinya does have an extra guy on gas, and this early in the game it can make quite a difference if that stays for the whole time.
Blunder, actually. Huge blunder. I wonder if he's going to notice that at some point. We do, of course, have the warp gate research started, and there's a couple things that Deceived has to worry about out of Shinya based on what he's scouted. Oh, he also is not rallying his probes to his... Now he is. At his natural, he wasn't rallying his probes to his minerals. They were collecting. It was quite sad to see.
Brood War style.
Yeah, Brood War style, man. He's like, this is beat-up, right? We just gotta, like, auto-mine, like, multiple building selection? What's that? I was individually selecting those 13 gates when I was making Zealot Archon that last game.
Oh man, wouldn't that be great if a guy won without getting warp tech, just straight building units out of the gateways? That'd be awesome.
There has to be like a Flash meme or something about that, isn't there?
I don't know. I see my favorite Flash meme was the one where he says, "I finally conquered microing Vikings against Colossi," and then he writes, "Oh wait, Vikings can fly too." I was just dying, dude.
That was a good one. I liked the I particularly liked one of the Shinya. Sorry, story time is over. Shinya is thrown down a bunch of gateways. That's going to bring him up to a grand total of 7. So I think we might see a big 7 gate out of him off of this play. He could opt to go for the 3rd as well. But adding on this many gates without getting a robo feels a little bit weird to me, especially since he's adding no other tech. So I'm a little bit confused as to what he's doing here. And I worry for him a little bit, because that's a lot of gates to add if you're not going to plan to be aggressive with them. And
yeah, I was just going to say, yeah, he had all those gates, and he's still going to expand down here this early.
Yeah, and I mean, the expansion is going down now, kind of as those gates finish up. But the danger with this sort of style out of Shinya is simply that the Protoss army does not deal well with stemmed bio with medevac support. And we're going to have those medevacs popping out at around the 9-minute 30-second to 10-minute mark. And he doesn't have enough time to get double forges out, to get Templar tech out, to get, really anything out other than what he's actually got. So he either has to be aggressive with what he's doing right now, which it looks like that might be his plan. But if you're going to do that sort of aggression and try and hit the timing before medevacs are out, I feel like spending the 400 minerals on the Nexus is actually... It's just hurting your push. You're kind of like, you're between that all-in stage and the economic stage, and you kind of need to choose one or the other to really be effective. But we'll have to see how it turns out. That is a lot of sentries. That's going to be a huge amount of energy.
And Deceive did just salvage that bunker right before this attack started coming across. A lot of Zealots are being morphed in now, so this is going to be quite a big attack. But if he does lose this attack, Deceive is going to be able to chase down all those sentries, and without that Robotech behind, it's going to be very dangerous. Here comes the attack right now. Guardian shields and big force being put down.
Actually, those force fields now causing more harm than hurt. He's going to have to pull back, wait for them to subside. All the SCVs were pulled there, so that is a big loss in mining time there. But the first medevacs are out. Here we are, 9-minute 30-second mark. So this is actually going to be great. He should be able to hold this. I'm surprised he's not trying to throw down a bunker, because here comes the follow-up push out of Shinya, leading with those Zealots, throwing up the Guardian Shield. Where are the force fields? There they are going down. Actually, not the best force fields. Did not trap enough of that army, but he needs to force field that ramp. Shinya doesn't.
Man, those force fields are actually hurting Shinya quite a bit right now. He's just kiting these Zealots forever. Deceive is with such weak bio, and Zealots with no charge. He's going to be able to kite all these Zealots dead, doing a really good step micro here. Does lose that medevac, though.
Yeah, and losing the medevacs is actually huge, but here comes another medevac. Here come forces from the ramp as well. This is why you have to force field that ramp. But the next wave coming in for Shinya, at the very least, he's doing a lot of economic damage here. And I feel like, this is more a mistake by Deceived than a good play by Shinya to some extent. Because, if he had just a bunker or two up, with the micro he displayed and with Shinya's inability to get good force fields down, that actually is quite good. But Shinya behind this has a third base up, and that's quite significant to note.
Yeah, oh, definitely. Yeah, that was crazy. He was able to apply all that pressure, mainly Zealots and a handful of sentries while getting that third up. Some of the first engagements weren't awesome with those force fields, but he did keep pressing the issue, and now he does have that extra base up. He's now just getting his base down. Also scouting Shinya's base.
We have a Dark Shrine on the way for Shinya. So, this kind of goes back to the old Protoss adage, when behind, Dark Shrine. So I think Shinya might feel like he's a little bit behind in this. He didn't do the damage he wanted to do. I think his plan there was actually to kill off most of the Protoss army, but here we go. Finally some good force fields going down, trapping a lot of those units. Now Shinya does need to pull back. Charges so close to finishing, and those Zealots, man, they're so slow when they're being Marauder concussive. But Shinya continuing to push forward. He does have enough energy for, I believe, no force field energy left. Some more Zealots coming in. Those Zealots need to be careful. They're trying to set up a flank, but Shinya not watching his army. That's quite a huge blunder, losing a lot of those Zealots for free.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that concussion is really playing such a big role right now. And Deceive actually has been playing so good with those force fields, just bringing the units from the front of the force field around back while the ones in back will still shooting. And here comes another big attack. Those charge lots might be able to clean up this bio. The bio is running for the hills right now with a lot of reinforcements still from Deceive.
Yeah, the Zealot count is actually so high here that Deceive needs some buildings to kind of block that off, and Shinya knows, beautiful force field at the bottom of the ramp there as he heads for this third base. Man, those SCVs, their lives are now forfeit as the Zealots tear through them. Man, Zealots not afraid to commit some genocide there, killing off as many SCVs as they can. And this forge from Shinya is actually, I believe, big enough to take on what there, because those medevacs are totally out of energy, and there's Dark Templars in the mix as well.
Oh,
Joker
wow.
playing beautifully. Oh, my goodness.
I actually don't even think he doesn't even know about the GTs, really. There goes his hand right there, where that GT is still alive.
So many SCVs have died at this point. This is actually ridiculous. If you look at the workers killed count, Shinya has killed 41 workers of Deceived right now.
Yeah, Deceive doing the best he can, marking back, picking up his units, dropping on the high, a great play, but at this point, Shinya's army is just such a big swell right now.
Yeah, such a big swell. And Shinya just continuing to be aggressive in his opponent's face. He's forced the lift of both command centers. Right now, Deceived is on a one-base economy. He only has 25 SCVs. What can he do, man? What can he do?
He's doing probably the only thing he can do at this point. He's going for a little bit of drop harass, but look at that pylon placement. Shinya spots it coming. Shinya's going to be absolutely prepared for this. Probably going to morph in a few stalkers down here at his third location to defend this off, and there's really not much he can do at this point. Here comes another big attack. Great micro, though, by Deceive. He's trying to get up the ramp so he doesn't get force fielded completely.
Yep, and Shinya will have to pull back. So, at the very least, Deceive pulling back here now. Shinya does have a single stalker back home, but the big thing to note about Shinya's play here is that he actually can warp in DTs for defense, and DTs are like the best defense ever because they either force your opponent to blow a scan to continue to do damage, or you end up in a situation where your drop gets cleaned up for nothing. But here comes the drop to the third. Shinya, of course, did see it going over that pylon, so I'm a little bit surprised he doesn't have more units waiting here. But he is, of course, going to see it now, pulling back those probes.
Interesting, pulling back all those guys. Must not have a warp in right there. Shinya now just playing with his army in the middle of the map. I actually didn't like this decision. I don't know if you noticed.
He is actually on warp and cooldown. He can't warp in anything, and this is pretty huge. He actually might lose this Nexus because of that warp in mechanic and just the way it works. Finally warping in some units, but the Nexus will fall, and Deceive is going to make it away with, or get away with a bunch of those units. He's going straight for the main man.
Oh my god, that's pretty good. Here comes Shinya with a big counterattack. Gonna go attack Deceive's third. Now, doing great force field, so Deceive is not really gonna be able to defend that. Gonna actually lose that third. Deceive trying to get through there, but he can get his army cut in half, and that's the big thing about this map is that's such a small choke. Shinya keeping him at bay with those sentries. Only a couple sentries left in that army.
Yep, and those sentries,
so key in that battle right there. But here we go, the big stim from the Protoss. Shinya actually in a great position to just engage this with all of that charge lot Archon. He is probably going to lose this battle as that stim bio is doing so much damage, and he does decide to pull back. That was a good engagement position for him, but without that third base, Shinya is actually in a lot of trouble, and there's still this drop doing a lot of damage here in the natural, which is insane, and the stemmed bio out of Deceive.
This is crazy, man. This is crazy. Deceiv's going to come back and win. He's just stimming his units across the map. They're so weak right now, but
he might. What can Shinya do against this? He's got all these units in the main. He needs to pull them down for defense. I don't think he knows they're there. What a huge blunder out of Shinya. The Archons, though, coming forward, and those Marines so low on health, those Archons are just tearing through them. But I don't think it's going to be enough. Shinya, units in your main. You have units in your main, Shinya.
And there's the GG. Holy cow! Deceive pulling a huge reverse there. Sitting on 23 workers. And he came back, and he's done this before, actually. But wow, I didn't think it could be done. Shinya kind of caught between techs, though, right there. He was trying to tech the Colossi, but Deceive pressing the issue, stimming twice across the map, leaving his units very weak, but he got there so quick before Shinya could react to anything. What a crazy game, Gwen.
Yeah.
Wow. That was insane, man. I thought there was no way, but Deceive has proved me wrong in the past. The guy has some sick micro, and if he just stays in it, man, the guy can he can roll people up very unexpectedly, and that was awesome.
Yeah, that was actually ridiculous out of Deceived. I mean, counterattacking when he did, sort of that attack at the front was not such a good move by Shinya. I mean, he engaged there and should have decided to pull back a little bit sooner, or should not have engaged. He was holding off with the force fields, and when you hold off a force like that with force fields, it's usually because you're like, well, I can't engage that, so I want to buy for time. But yeah, that was just like kind of crazy there that he lost that, because I mean, Deceived in his main was completely mined out. Like just completely mined out. He had 25.
He had no workers. He had no workers either, and he lost his base. He had to pick up both his bases at that one point that you mentioned, and he was off one base that was just about mined out. But holy cow! I mean, he just had so many effects, and the bio just kept coming. And Deceive, he really had great micro that whole game. Just getting the most cost efficiency out of those bio units, that was insane, man.
Yeah, I mean, bio with Medivacs, when you've got those upgrades for them as well, is quite potent. So, and that's kind of the reason that it's a little bit curious that, like I said, I mean, Shinya going for that big push, getting that third up behind it is great, but it delays the rest of his tech by so much. That's really dangerous, man, if you put yourself in that situation. But I think we're going to go to a short commercial break. When we get back, we are going to have, our next set of games. It is going to be between Deceived and whoever MYI puts in next. I'm Gwen. With me is Joker. We'll be right back. Stay tuned.
Ciao. Fantastic. Fantastic.
To hold us off, and that just is probably going to be going down that one Colossi, and there's the ridiculously lagging GG!
Oh,
Nice.
that's a big one.
And those Vikings are going to focus down. All those Colossi are probably going to go down.
No, he doesn't even have the link yet.
Welcome back, guys. This is the ISTL Season 2. And I'm Joker Cast Gwyn, and holy hell, Gwyn, my mind is just blown from these games right now.
Yeah, we have seen some insane games. I think the only one that had any semblance of normalcy was Game 1, and that was a ZVZ. Then we saw Shinya go 2-base mothership into 13-gate expand. What? I don't even know what we saw. And in the last game there, we saw Shinya kill off literally 50 workers of his opponent, force both orbitals to lift, and then basically lose to one drop. Because he did not have a warp in cycle available. I was able to kill off his third base, continue to do a ton of economic damage, almost 35 probes killed by the end of its reign of terror there through his bases. One drop, man, and like he killed off to.
And the weird part is he saw it coming. He saw it went right over that.
It went right over a pylon. That doesn't mean he saw it coming.
Yeah,
that doesn't mean he registered. It does mean it was in his sight. So. Yeah, it was just it felt like a little bit of a misstep there, and then he left probably about 30 to 35 supply worth of units in his main during that last engagement. Bunch of DTs, a bunch of charge lots, some stalkers as well. So if those had been at the front, maybe it would have been a hold, maybe not. But Shinya tapping out there, and it's going to be a TVT next. MYI, my intent, putting in McLeod as their next player. So they're bringing out the big guns now, man.
Wow, and it is 2-1 for Impulse right now. And TVT coming next. That's going to be good. We're basically, so we've had a ZVZ, ZVP, TVP. I mean, we're getting quite the plethora of matchups, which is great. Man, it's not like watching Team Liquid, just a bunch of Zergs going one after another, right?
It's true. It is true.
This is going to be good. This is going to be some good stuff. TVTs are quite very positional, man. It's a chess match, that's for sure.
Yeah, and there's actually I love TVT on this map, and I'll get into why once we get on into the game. But Shakira Swato is a great map for TVT. It's a really good chessboard to play it out on. I'll say it that way.
And McLeod's coming in, so that's, like you said, that's their heavy hitter against Impulse's heavy hitter. 2 Terrans and be battling it out on Shakir's Plateau. We've had some epic games so far, guys. It's the Indie StarCraft Team League. Please go hit up www.impulseesports.com, because at the end of the ISTL, if you follow Impulse on Twitter and like them on Facebook, you are entered to win free coaching from some of the top Impulse players. Really cool. Yeah, an hour of free coaching, which it's a great opportunity. So definitely go check them out and snag it. This is gonna be sick, man. I'm stoked.
It totally will. I want to give a shout out to our music is provided by Kinosin391. He's on Newgrounds. You can check him on out. Maxed Out Studios providing the art, and I want to say. We've got this cool MVP award for this league. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that, Joker?
The MVP award is coming from Elveron, which it's one of Quaffle's. I don't really know a whole lot about Elveron. Quaffle in our teams talks about it. Some game that's uses.
Okay.
He says it's similar to StarCraft, but it's like really old or something like that. Anyways, he's I guess a.
Okay.
Oh, sorry guys. I accidentally turned the stream on, and I was like listening to you from before, and I was like, "What the hell?
Oh.
What the heck's going on?" So.
No, of course, Elveron is putting forward $50, and that is for the MVP award. So the most valuable player from the entire team, the entire league, gets an extra $50, which is really cool because no other leagues are doing that, and I think it gives a lot of incentive for players to like really try and perform well for their teams, and not only that, but try and do things a little bit unconventional. And I got to say, my vote for the unconventional award right now is with Shinya, because two base mothership into 13-gate zealot Archon third base and then crushing your opponent is kind of ridiculous.
You can't teach that, Gwen. You just cannot teach that.
You can't, man. You can't.
That is just from the heart, man. That is some awesome play. Thank you, Shinya, for giving us that. And you're definitely in the runnings for that MVP award. We'll see how you do later in the season, but right now, TVT about to go down. You play Terran. I do. You play Terran, right? So, what's your best best strategy when you're going TVT? Do you use mech? Do you do bio?
I play mech. The reason I play mech in TVT and TVZ is actually that my Marine Marauder control is atrocious. And when I say atrocious, I mean like I have 50 Marines and I lose all of them to 2 Banelings. I know that's not possible mathematically. Somehow I make it happen every single game. And so what that means is that if I play mech, I'm actually quite good because I'm a very good macro player. Nice. and I have like good positioning and all that stuff. So I play mech in both TVT and TVZ. And then in TVP, I play a ridiculous style that I'll talk about someday. But we are spawning in here.
Reveal all your secrets. Don't reveal all your secrets.
I can't reveal them all. In the blue, from my intent, we do have McLeod. And in the red, playing for Impulse, it is Deceive. And will Deceive be able to deceive his opponent and get some damage in? Because what this matchup kind of comes down to, Joker, is your ability to either out expand and outproduce your opponent in sort of just like a straight up macro sense. Or your ability to go for a build that's maybe a little bit more tech or more aggression heavy and then do the damage you need to. But I mean, all sort of openings in TVT are safe. And I think this is one of the things I love the most about this matchup is that you can open with Reapers. You can open with Proxy Marauders. You can open with Marines. You can open with Gas First into Fast Hellions and then Banshees. There's the possibilities for TVT openings is absolutely endless, and it comes down to whether you can make the damage happen that you need to make happen with more of those aggressive openings.
Yeah, that's awesome. A build that I've been seeing getting quite popular lately is the boxer build. Is what people call it, which is the Reaper and Hellion drops into the main. And this would be actually a pretty good map to do it on because of the rush distance from the Reaper. Close position, those Reapers would be able to pop down and up into that main. I don't know if we're going to be seeing any of that action, but that is one of my favorite TVT builds.
Yeah, it will be interesting, and we already have a divergence from these two players. It looks like McLeod actually opting to go Barracks and then Gas, and we see a gasless build so far out of Deceive. So McLeod scouts this, of course, with that SCV and goes, okay, well, you're likely going 1-Rax Expand off this, and so he is going to know, a whole list of things. The chat saying that hi, Planetary Fortress Rush, which is hilarious. No, I only do that against my friends who are really bad, and only if I want to troll them quite heavily. But interestingly, McLeod actually takes that gas, he mines a little bit off the gas, and then he immediately pulls out of gas. So it looks like he's going to be going for an expansion of his own, and it's going to be before second supply depot, so I believe it's actually going to be a little bit quicker than that of Deceive. So he has Deceive, so to speak.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, it's actually, he did go for that gas, and he's just a little bit, only one SCV behind, and did his expansion go down quicker than Deceived?
Yep,
I think
it did. It went down quicker. And he's
Wow.
going to be able to start mining gas quicker. So this is actually like really kind of ridiculous play right now out of McLeod. He's playing off sort of the scout timing of Deceived and the fact that he got the Marine out just a little bit faster because his barracks was built a little bit closer to his command center, which let it finish a little bit faster. And here we go. That factory going down really quick. And this is like a very, very quick factory after going for a 1-rax expand. I mean, if you look at the gas count for Deceived with a more normally timed thing, he doesn't even have anywhere close to 100 gas to start that factory. And the factory already in production for McLeod. So I really like what he's doing. If it was an improvisation out of him, then it was brilliant. And if not, if it's a planned build, then that is equally well thought out.
Yeah, he's playing this so good right now, cutting corners every way he can, and he's actually has just that little bit of advantage with that base going up quicker and that factory up quicker. He does drop a scan, so we did get to see the factory and the reactor on that barracks. So probably knowing there's no Banshee play coming right now, and things like that. So
well, I mean, it still could be Banshee play. I mean, you could easily build the tech lab off off the barracks once it finishes. It'll be a little bit of a delayed, and there we go, tech lab going down on that barracks. So we might see that Banshee play. It could just be for he could just be doing some sort of drop with those Hellions into the back of the. It'd be quite strong as well. But I think the big thing to note about what Deceived would see with that scan is that he still does not know there's an expansion up. And if he looks at that, he looks at that and he goes, okay, well, your tech seems a little bit delayed. That's a little bit weird. And it's true. That is quite strange that his tech would be delayed like that. But I think we'll see a medevac first out of that. Yep, and then we should see a Banshee follow-up. Potentially with Cloak. Would not be surprised to see the Cloak, especially with that gas count.
All right. So, yep, it looks like Deceived is opting for these tanks. He just now starting us mode, so he's going to be and a Viking coming out for on his back, which is good.
And the Viking is a really good read, right? Because what he sees with that scan. If we jump to his vision of his opponent's base, he sees 2 gas, he sees a factory going down pretty quickly, and with the 2 gas that early, that often is going to mean that your opponent is going for a quick Banshee, and the timing on this Viking popping out is actually kind of the timing that there would be a quick Banshee, but actually a Raven out of McLeod, and the scan does go down, and it sees the expansion now, which
right,
is
we actually got a drop, a Hellion drop.
The drop.
Base right now. 4 Hellions are popping out. Going to start roasting a few of these SCVs. Are now getting in position.
And immediately popping back into that medevac. The medevac needs to turn around and run. Those Marines are going to be able to take it out. It does take a few pot shots as it exits base. But that Viking
actually might find this, Quinn. I think it is. Yeah, this Viking is going to find this, and it might get it down. He should start dropping his Hellions right now. Exactly what he's doing. And that medevac is going down.
You got to say, though, those Hellions are trapped forever, man, because Hellions roast the indestructible rocks. We'll come back in 2014 to check on how those are doing. But McLeod has actually transitioned into mech off of this opening, and getting the Raven out first before he goes for his mech composition is actually kind of ridiculously good. And the reasoning for that is that if your opponent's going for mech, you want to get some Marauders in to be able to snipe out all their tanks and their Hellions. And, of course, getting the Raven means that you're going to be able to point defense drone to kill off any of the... or point defense drone to stop those Marauder shots from hitting your tanks. So that's actually quite huge. But here we go. This is actually going to be really scary for McLeod to hold with those 2 tanks in there, because they do have siege mode finish. I'm not actually sure if he's going to be able to hold this push off out of Deceive right now.
I like Deceive's decision of landing that Viking, actually, knowing that McLeod has 2 Vikings in the air with that Raven. He does land that Viking, and now the siege tanks are shooting away at that bunker. McLeod doing the best job he can repairing that. A few auto turrets being put down, and now those tanks do not have siege yet, and Deceive is knocking this down, man.
Yep, the auto turrets are actually a brilliant choice there out of McLeod, and Deceive knows this. He loses his Marine count. He doesn't have anything that can defend those tanks anymore, and he pulls back. But he did force a lot of energy to be used there on those auto turrets. Auto turrets 50 each, so that means that the point defense drone is going to be delayed by quite some time. But McLeod is finishing up his third base right now. He's on 3 factory production, as well as producing those Vikings as well. If you're playing mech, you cannot be behind in the air count. If you have air dominance, you can actually make Banshees, which is ridiculously good in this matchup because Banshees snipe tanks so quickly.
Absolutely. We also have the Blue Flame Hellion upgrade, upgrade right now in the fact it's going to help versus that Marine. Now, only one Hellion out on the field right now. Oh, wait, no, never mind. I missed them. There's a bunch of them. So, yeah, this mech play is going to be pretty strong. And both of them taking a third. McLeod's third is actually up right now, not moving across the map yet, and Deceive is just putting his down in the third position.
Yeah, and this is kind of just common of McLeod going for a mech style. Opening mech in a situation like this is going to mean that your third, you float minerals when you go mech, so you're going to be able to get that third a little bit faster than your opponent. I love the tank spread out of Deceive right now. It's actually quite good. He's controlling the space in the middle of the map very well. But the big problem here for him is that he doesn't have air dominance, and so unless he's willing to burn just a ton of scans, McLeod is going to be able to push his advantage here with that superior tank count. And kind of take that advantage back as he is producing tanks 2 at a time. But playing mech on this map, man, those Hellions, they're still not through the destructible rocks. I just want to point that out. They're getting close, man. They're getting close. The Blue Flame, of course, doesn't help the Hellions against destructible rocks.
It's going to be a game changer. They're going to catch the sea when he's trying to go up the ramp, and the Marines are behind tanks, and those are just going to start roasting. And they're going to be hero Hellions after all the hard work.
I'm sure they will. I'm sure they will. He actually abates his attacking of the destructible rocks. So he's going to send a medevac to get those Hellions. And he's actually looking to go for another drop into the main. Now, Deceived has some missile turrets, but there definitely are some chinks in that armor. And McLeod might be able to find that hole and punch through it. And if he does, that could be devastating.
Yeah, absolutely. He's also moving his mech army out here in the front, sniping up a few of Deceived scouting Marines. And here comes that drop. That drop is getting the Hellions off. The Hellions are going to start roasting.
Beautiful. Hellions killing so many SUs. This is actually going to be really, really bad for Deceive. Losing so much supply and workers right now. And those Hellions, man, it's okay if they die because they have killed so many workers right there. Taking a look at those workers killed, 16 workers killed. Wow. And that's quite a good situation. But we do have a double medevac drop happening down here at the bottom to sort of take out the sensor tower and missile turret. McLeod setting up to take that base. Now coming down with a bunch of Blue Flame Hellions, which should be able to clean this up or at least force the lift. And I'm surprised that McLeod didn't send down the Vikings as well to clean up those medevacs, because if you let the Terran player who's going for the bio, go for keep their medevac count up, then you basically let them have free run on whatever they want to do on the map. So you got to kill off those medevacs, man.
McLeod's army is looking pretty scary, but that spread from Deceive is still very nice right now, sending forth his Vikings and a Raven in the front. Deceive's sending quite a few Marines to just scare those off a little bit. He's going to need some medevac energy to heal us, and also Deceive is loading up 3 medevacs for a drop. Does he have any tanks in there? No tanks in there, but just a pretty good drop going to go around the outside and possibly hit that 4th position that McLeod is putting up.
Yeah, I mean, this could be really scary. I mean, a triple drop like this could do a lot of damage. Is there a sensor tower for McLeod? Oh, it finishes up at just a beautiful timing. And I got to say, McLeod's turret ring there is quite good. But what Deceived can do is he can actually just drop on the low ground and then pick off the turrets from the low ground using the high ground sight from those medevacs. So he's not in the worst position here, and this is exactly what he needs to do against this mech style of McLeod. But here we go. The drop is spotted. It's on that sensor tower. Where's the reaction, man? You've gotta react to this. And
oh my God.
He's actually going to pick off 2 of the medevacs so quick.
Before even getting dropped. 2 Marines are all that came out. That was a failed attempt by Deceive. Deceive behind quite a bit. Great,
that was beautiful defense. I mean, flying, not really paying attention to that drop, cost Deceive so much right there.
It really came down to that missile, those missile turrets, like you said. He's now putting down more. It's such an impenetrable spot. Like you said, he could have dropped in the low ground, but he was kind of committed at that point.
Yep, and I got to say, I mean, these turret rings around the outside of the base for both of those, those kind of cornerstone bases of McLeod are really, really effective. But here we go. The tank's starting to siege up, and McLeod at 180 supply knows he's going to be maxing soon, as tanks do take 3 supply apiece, and so he's going to start pushing forward. And again, unless Deceived wants to spend an inordinate amount of scans, he's not going to be able to outrange the tanks of his opponent.
Yeah, this air dominance is just huge for McLeod, and he's just going to be able to leapfrog his tanks forward. That's exactly what he's doing. Deceive dropping down, scan, checking all these tanks on sieging, and it's going to be really hard for him to combat this. He has a few missile turrets in his tank line right now, but I don't know what he can do. He has a great production streaming across the map, but it's all. I think it's all going to come down to that air dominance, like you said.
Yeah, I mean, the air dominance is really, really important here. Some Marines stemming forward to their deaths, actually. Just bloody craters remain of them. And that really sucks, man. You end up in a situation like that. You're the commanding officer for Deceive's army, and you've got to go back to some, Marine widow's house at a supply depot. And you're like, your husband was killed in action. And she's like, is there going to be burial? And they're like, well, he was buried already. There's a crater in the middle of Shakiris Plateau. Remarkable cross. Here we go. Tank starting to move up, and this is actually really good play out of Deceived. He's trying to set up a concave so that when he does, choose to scan, he's going to be able to get the maximum amount of damage off. And I'm really surprised that McLeod has not started mixing Vikings into his composition, because I'm sorry, not Vikings, Banshees into his composition. A single Banshee could wreak havoc on Deceived's tank line right now and actually force an engagement before he's ready. But here comes another drop. He is actually going to drop on the low ground, though, but he still loses a medevac. But this is the kind of pressure that he needs to put on to kill his missile turrets off before... Oh, the missile turrets do so much damage so quickly, though. This will now allow him to drop into the main, which is, of course, what he wants to do, doing that big damage. But here come a ton of Vikings finishing up everything on the air. But, oh, man, picking off these Ghost Academies that were researching nukes. And I got to say, man, nukes are so awesome. And the fact that McLeod is adding those into his composition makes me so happy.
That is awesome. And I'm telling you right now, if Deceive wanted to attack it, that would have been the time there was
that's the time.
All he had was tanks, but now McLeod is coming back to reinforce that army, so I think Deceive kind of lost a little bit of a timing right there.
He did. He did kill off one Ghost Academy, and that engineering bay is on fire. But McLeod doesn't care, man. He does not care about engineering bay upgrades, other than maybe the high-sec auto tracking for those turrets, actually, which would be a good upgrade for him to get. The scan goes down in the middle, though. From Deceived once again to kind of check that unit count, see if that's something you can break. But look at this drop that's being loaded up by McLeod here. He's got so many tanks in that drop, a bunch of Hellions as well. Now, there, of course, is, so many command centers going down for Deceived. He is max, so what else do you do with your money, man? You make mass command centers. It's a good strategy. But this drop might be able to sneak in and do a ton of damage. And I gotta say, if he can do the damage necessary, this will be really, really bad. And then positional nukes out of McLeod as well. That's just going to be beautiful. In fact, he actually cloaks up and he runs forward. I think we're going to see a positional nuke out of him.
Oh, my God.
And if he doesn't see this, at the same time this drop is going down at this back base, there are point defense drones to protect the dropships. The nuke, did it go down? No, it looks like he was killed. That Ghost was killed off, but, man, so much damage being done here at this bottom expansion. All of these command centers are going to fall.
Yeah, well, actually, all the Deceive now have the air superiority right now, sitting with 13 Vikings over McLeod's 9. So that can start to play a factor a little bit later, but right now McLeod's just doing so much damage that...
Oh, there was another nuke queued up, but it did get the Ghost did get killed off. McLeod is adding on Mass Viking, though, and Mass Viking is going to be able to, of course, just go for a really big... landing the Vikings on the tanks is such a brilliant move out of Deceived. I interrupt myself at the bottom here as Deceived does finally clean it up, but a ton of damage done for him, and really, a ton of damage done for McLeod down at the bottom, killing off all those command centers, and Deceived cleaned it up, but McLeod was just freeing up supply so he could make other things like Mass Raven. And who doesn't like Mass Raven?
Oh, God. That is going to be awesome, man. But this has such a big army. Point defense drones are being thrown down, and Deceive picking off a lot of Vikings, forcing those Vikings to land, actually, and now just running right over the tanks and looking for things to hunt down. Is he going to be able to get to those Ravens?
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of an awkward situation. Now, again, look at that. Deceive actually nuking somewhere that... McLeod actually nuking somewhere that Deceived has to just run away from, so that's a great positional nuke there. It's actually going to kill off that point defense drone if it lands, but he did cancel the nuke landing, actually.
Interesting.
But he forced an unsieged, forced the entire army of Deceived to move back one pace, and that's what he wanted to do right there. Exactly what...
Deceive does have that nice concave. Holding those Zelnog towers right now is so crucial with that concave that he has over this army that it's really hard for McLeod to push forward into this. But so many Ravens are now out on the battlefield, and they have a lot of energy going.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of energy, and the other thing they have is Seeker Missile. And that's pretty significant to know. We actually just saw McLeod sacrifice a bunch of SCVs. Man, I'd hate to be an SCV in his army because he gets the max, and he's just like, I don't need you guys anymore. And look at there.
Yeah.
The slaughter. And a Thor actually getting caught out there in the action. That Thor should not be there. Some units coming forward. And
big TV for that Thor thought he was the biggest TV. But hey, Gwyn, we do have the battleship for the Terran army out on the battlefield. We have battle cruisers for Deceive.
Battle cruisers coming out. Are you kidding me? This game has gone from ridiculous to awesome.
Oh man.
From ridiculous to awesome. So we'll have to see exactly what happens. Ravens. Of course, he's going to have so many point defense drones or Seeker missiles. I think it's going to be Seeker missile as the choice here. Dropping a mule on a couple tanks, that's quite clever. But a little bit of engagement going down. The battlecruisers and Vikings coming forward. Seeker missiles going all the Vikings.
Oh
my goodness, that was insane. I don't even know what to say about that.
Huge turn of events, killing almost every single Viking in Deceive's army. Deceive now only with 3 Vikings and a capital ship for him. Holy cow, those Ravens are just sick right now.
Yep, and now dropping auto turrets on top of the tanks to kill those off. That is beautiful play as well. The auto turrets, unfortunately, do get picked off and don't quite take out those tanks. But now McLeod has that air superiority back. He is producing Vikings 3 at a time. And let me tell you, Vikings are better than battlecruisers in a 1v1 fight because the Viking can outrange the battlecruiser and they can also kite all day long. And McLeod, despite being down in supply, kind of has a little bit of an army composition advantage here with that mass Raven out.
Oh my God! He comes to point defense drones using 2 on 1 tank. I don't know about that decision.
Yeah,
I mean not point defense, Seeker missiles, but I'm not sure about that decision. But he is just trying to free up this flank so he can start. He is inching forward slowly.
Inching forward very slowly. He wants to take control of that. Looks like we do have some shots going down. I'm wondering actually how he has sight of that. But I guess just barely in sight there. We do, mules getting dropped down on those tanks, and the tank fire goes.
This is crazy, Gwen.
Damages them, but does not quite kill them. And just trading blows back and forth right now, both players. Tons of mules being dropped for everyone, as there are like command centers galore for McLeod here in the middle.
We do have 6 battlecruisers for Deceive, so I mean...
Battle cruisers are quite good. He's getting the air armor upgrades. He has a +1 armor, +2 attack. So the battle cruisers are going to do a fair amount of energy, but the thing I really worry about, beautiful Seeker missiles coming in, doing a lot of damage to those tanks. We're going to have to see if there are more Seeker missiles coming in on the battle cruisers even, and the Vikings do as much damage as they can. He needs to kite with those Vikings, though. You don't want to just straight up engage the battle cruisers.
Battlecruisers just wore those like a boss, taking a little bit of damage. I'd like to see Deceive heal those up real quick, but man, this game is just back and forth. But once those Ravens start losing energy, if they lose too much more energy and Deceive pushes on him, it's going to be quite a big thing if he doesn't kite those Vikings, that's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly will be. And it looks like we're going to see another couple Seeker missiles go down on those tank clusters, and that should spell the doom for those tanks. And huge Viking production for McLeod right now. 7 at a time, 5 at a time for Deceived as well. And Deceived has a Raven in there. It should have enough energy for that point defense drone pretty quickly as well. Which I gotta say, man, I mean, this game, I don't know who's going to come out on top. It's really going to come down to if he can get the Seeker missile hits that he wants. And if he can, then he's going to be in a good position. And if he can't, then Deceive should take this because he is in a really good place. But 3-3 mech with those 3-3 Thors in there actually is going to deal with clumped up Vikings quite well.
Yeah, and that upgrade advantage is huge right now for Deceive. Only the 1-1 or the just one attack on his mech right now. Could play a huge difference in this battle. Deceive really needs to split up those Vikings and because of these Seeker missiles and Thors. And here comes the big engagement.
Missiles going down on so much stuff. Beautiful hits going down. A lot of the Vikings going after the battlecruisers right now. Battlecruisers getting focused down. Point defense drones going down for both players. So many point defense drones for McLeod that his Vikings are basically not taking a lot of damage. But now the point defense drones are, sort of nullified. They have run out of energy. The Thors dancing forward, trying to do the damage they can, but some of them not firing. But I think McLeod actually, he lost all of his Vikings, but he still has the huge ground army. I guess he didn't lose all of his Vikings. Still got quite a few. And coming forward, he's going to pick off even more. And Deceived has to give up this middle position, I think.
I think so. I think you're absolutely right. Now, like I said, McLeod does have that ground advantage, but Deceive has the air upgrade advantage. So that's why he was definitely being able to hang with those Vikings and come out decently even on the Viking count. But right now, looks like McLeod's Vikings are inching forward. Point defense drones being thrown down. This is just a crazy CVT, Gwen.
It is absolutely insane. You're 100% right. Deceive pushes forward with a few tanks toward the bottom, denying that base for McLeod. So that is definitely a win on his side. And again, I really kind of question, if you've got this sort of air dominance that McLeod has, why don't you mix in 1 or 2 Banshees to sort of really, take advantage of that air dominance and pick off lone tanks like what we see McLeod here? But he's actually just running his Ravens over. Would not be surprised to see a couple Hunter Seeker missiles get dropped down on that Raven count there.
Holy cow, man.
Or on that tank count down at the bottom there.
These guys just exchanging scans like they're free, man. They have so many orbitals. They're just doing scans forever. This is crazy.
Yeah, there's not really a huge need for the workers, although here we go. Some more Seeker missiles do kind of thin that tank count for Deceive, but McLeod right now playing a little bit from behind, and he's continuing to produce Ravens, which I'm not sure is the best move at this point. I think the Viking production is a little bit more important. If you take a look at those counts, it's actually 18 Vikings to just 11. But here we go, more Hunter Seeker missiles going down, doing a lot of damage to so many of those tanks. And that will kill off another 3 tanks for, I believe, 4 Hunter Seeker missiles.
Now, one thing to note, actually, is Deceive is stopping a lot of really good mining out of this base from McLeod, right by where his tanks are by the Zelnaga, whereas Deceive has all of the bases that he needs down there. And if you look at the money right now, McLeod's only rocking at 500, where Deceive's at 1,200. That could play a huge factor to stop this mining for so long down here.
It absolutely could, and McLeod actually needs to be really careful and stop clumping up his air units, because that Thor is doing so much damage. A bunch of Hunter Seeker missiles now unleashed, though, upon another tank, getting some splash damage in on that Thor as well. But that Thor has done so much damage because McLeod is continuing to keep his air units clumped up, and of course Thors do that splash damage. So even though the units are not light, they are taking quite a bit of damage from that. I'm really... this game is in a very weird spot, and I think that Deceived actually getting that Yamato cannon for the battlecruisers is actually turning it in his favor. So as soon as he has the energy, of course, to kind of run in and throw those Yamatos down, I think he's going to be in a great spot. And I worry that McLeod just hasn't done what he needs to do in this game. He had some great advantages, positional and unit composition wise, and he just hasn't made it happen.
I really like how Deceived's playing so calm. He's had this middle position almost this whole game, keeping these Zelnagas and spread. Yeah, so he's playing so good, not overcommitting to any certain attack, just exchanging blows. Just as I say that, here comes the air army from Deceive. Decent spread actually on the Viking is gonna stop a lot of that Hunter Seeker damage, but here come the Hunter Seekers right now, blowing up a lot of Vikings. But did they get enough, Gwen?
Those Hunter Seekers doing insane damage right now. There's so many point defense throws down as well. And the battlecruisers are actually going to be forced to pull back. They are at 3 attack, but so much of the Air Force lost there for Deceive. That was a huge win for McLeod, who really just did not take a ton of damage there. He lost some Vikings. He lost a couple tanks, but his Raven count still intact. And, the losses for Deceived were catastrophic there, going from, basically 200 supply down to about 150 in just a few seconds. And the chat saying, WCF is this game? I don't know either, guys. I don't know what's
This game is ridiculous. Just he has the battle cruiser. He had 7 health on the battle cruiser. Both engines were burning, and the captain's like, "We're still going in, boys. Load up. We're going in.
We're still doing it.
We're doing." Oh, he's now repairing it right now. Trying to put down a few turrets is deceived, but getting pop-shotted by those tanks from McLeod, and holy... This is one of the most ridiculous TVPs I've seen in a long time.
Where's the nuke going down? I just heard a nuke.
I heard it too. I don't see it.
I want to know, man. Where's the nuke? Oh, it's actually at the, wow. So McLeod actually snuck a nuke to the, I guess the tucked in third base of Deceived, and dropped it there. I wonder if he killed he killed 13 workers, so not too bad. And now he's going to go nuke another location. He's actually queued up to nuke the other pocket third, and there it goes.
Oh, man. Yeah.
So run out of that cloak energy.
Oh, he's going to get it. He's going to get it. He kills that. Oh, what a great scam by Deceive. And Gwyn, big thing to note right now, just also taking both the top and bottom bases. He's going to, once we're at that point where this base is, this map is being mined out, and there's not a whole lot of resources. If Deceive can hold these bases, man, it's just going to start getting better and better for him.
Yep. It is true. The one thing that McLeod has in his advantage in a mined out versus mined out situation is that he has a ton of